Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're skipping the polished, prepared remarks from a major pharma company's earnings call and jumping straight into the good stuff, the unscripted analyst Q&A. This is where we get to see what Wall Street is really asking AbbVie. So the official presentation is over, right? The numbers have been crunched. But what does Wall Street really want to know? That's what we're here to find out. We're diving deep into the Q&A from AbbVie's latest earnings call to uncover the key pressures, the big opportunities, and the future plans for this pharma giant. This is all coming straight from the analysts whose job it is to pick everything apart. All right, first up, policy, pricing, and these things called PBMs. Right out of the gate, the analysts wanted to talk about the shifting sands of U.S. healthcare policy. Specifically, how AbbVie is getting ready for some potentially massive changes in how drugs get priced and paid for. This is a huge deal. So the first question that gets thrown out is about this new model from the insurance giant Cigna, and it's a big one because it could totally upend the whole system of drug rebates. Now, what are rebates? Well, think of them as these behind-the-scenes discounts that drug makers pay to middlemen, these pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. The current model, as you can probably guess, it's a bit of a tangled mess. Cigna's big idea is to just simplify the whole thing. A net price model where the savings go directly to you, the patient, right at the pharmacy counter. This could be a real game changer. So, how did AbbVie's leadership respond to this potential earthquake? Well, with a whole lot of confidence. The CEO, Rob Michael, basically said, look, that stuff doesn't really matter in the long run. His point was that what really drives their performance is making one-of-a-kind, life-changing medicines. They already operate in tons of different markets outside the U.S., each with its own crazy rules, and they adapt. So his message was clear. No matter what the system looks like, they'll be able to adapt and win. Okay, next section. We're heading into the immunology battlefield. This is AbbVie's home turf, their core strength. But with their two blockbuster drugs, Skyrizi and Rinvoq, facing a wave of new competition, you can bet the analysts wanted to know, how are you going to defend your kingdom? So an analyst brings up these new competitors, right? But AbbVie's response was pretty interesting. They basically said, it's not about us versus them. The entire market is exploding. They pointed to this whole class of drugs, the IL-23s. Just look at the numbers for ulcerative colitis. About a year ago, these drugs only captured about 5% of new or switching patients. Today, that number is nearly 40%. It's a classic case of a rising tide lifting all boats. And guess who's leading the charge? Yep, AbbVie's Skyrizi. And here's the thing. They don't just have one boat in that rising tide. They've got two. Their chief commercial officer, Jeff Stewart, described it as a 1-2 punch. You've got Skyrizi, which is awesome for patients because of its less frequent dosing, and then you have Rinvoq, which is the heavy hitter they bring in for the toughest cases. It's this combination that gives them such a powerful leadership position in treating inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, so with all this talk about their huge immunology drugs, Wall Street was like, great, but what else have you got? They wanted to know where the other growth is coming from. And the answer, well, it's a tale of two very different stories. First, you have their neuroscience division. And let me tell you, this thing is an absolute powerhouse. It's their second largest business, and it's also their fastest growing. We're talking treatments for migraines, psychiatric disorders, Parkinson's, all delivering this incredible, robust growth of almost 20%, just firing on all cylinders. But then, you have the complete opposite story, the aesthetics business. Yeah, we're talking about the iconic brands, Botox and Juvederm. And that part of the company, it's actually shrinking. And the reason is pretty simple, really. When people start getting nervous about the economy, discretionary spending on things like cosmetic procedures, well, that's often one of the first things to get cut. And if we dig into the numbers a little bit, you can see exactly what's going on. The market for toxins, like Botox, is kind of flattish, but AbbVie is still crushing it with about a 60% market share. The real headache is with fillers like Juvederm. That whole market is down by double digits. But, and this is key, AbbVie is holding its market share steady at around 45%. Their bet is that this is just a temporary blip caused by the economy, and they're investing heavily in new campaigns to get things moving again, figuring that as the market leader, they'll be the first to bounce back. All right, so after talking about the present, the conversation obviously shifts to the future. What's next? What's cooking in the labs? The analysts really wanted to get a look at AbbVie's pipeline, and what they revealed was a really broad, really ambitious strategy for developing that next generation of blockbuster medicines.
And one of the most exciting areas for sure is their recent move into the psychedelic space. I mean, how cool is this? They acquired a company called Gilgamesh for a next-gen psychedelic called bretilaroxine, and their whole approach is fascinating. It's designed for a patient to take in a clinic. It has a very short period of hallucination, and the goal, well, it's nothing short of transformative. Imagine a single session that could offer rapid, durable relief from depression. We're talking about potentially rewiring the brain for long-term benefit. This is really cutting-edge stuff.
And it's not just psychedelics. I mean, that's just one piece of the puzzle. They highlighted a whole range of programs. You've got a new type of antibody-drug conjugate for hard-to-treat solid tumors, a new oral therapy for Parkinson's. They're even making a big entry into the massive obesity market. And they're investing in these cutting-edge platform technologies like in vivo CAR-T to power their next wave of immunology drugs. The message here is loud and clear. Their R&D pipeline is incredibly deep and diverse, designed to fuel growth well into the 2030s. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the call, and analysts want to nail down the big picture. They're pressing for clarity on the long-term vision, especially now that the company is moving past its reliance on the old mega-blockbuster Humira. The question is simple. Just how solid is your plan for the next decade? And you know what? Management laid out a super clear 4-step path. Step 1, get back to growth after the Humira patent loss. Check. They've already achieved that. In fact, their 2025 outlook is already way above their previous peak. Step 2, lean on the diversified platform they have right now, Skyrizi, Rinvoq, and that powerhouse neuroscience division. Step 3, find the next wave of hits from their immunology pipeline. And Step 4, just keep investing in R&D to fuel performance way out into the 2030s and beyond. It's a very clear, very confident strategy. But even with all that, the CEO, Rob Michael, basically said he thinks Wall Street is still missing a couple of key things. He feels their stock is underappreciated. He pointed out that while everyone's rightly focused on Skyrizi and Rinvoq, they're not paying enough attention to two things. First, the incredible depth of their next wave of immunology innovations. And second, the massive, massive success story that is their neuroscience franchise, which has just quietly become this huge engine for growth. So, at the end of the day, AbbVie painted a picture of extreme confidence. They've got a detailed strategic plan and a track record of powerful execution. They have a clear roadmap for the rest of the decade. But we're talking about the high-stakes world of pharma, right? The road to 2030 is long, and if there's one thing we know, it's that drug development is never a sure bet. Which leaves us with the big question. AbbVie is confident in its plan, but is any pipeline, no matter how promising, ever truly a sure thing?